Welcome back to the show. We got another great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can join us in the Freedom Zone. Just click the join button and come on in, or go into the description box and you can join at the Patreon or YouTube. It's up to you. Same price, same perks, and it's so affordable, it's not even worth talking about. It's next to nothing to join. So make sure you come on in and help support the channel. We appreciate each and every one of you. $3.04 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 2.8. 94,000 plus for Bitcoin, 1,800 plus slightly over for Ethereum. XRP number 4 spot's $2.15. Now we're off 2% on the 24 and off 7.2 on the 7-day. Looking at the range of price very quickly here, ranging between 214 and 221. We're on the bottom side of that range. We'll keep an eye on it. But listen here, it ain't going to stop us because we know we got great things coming for crypto. And I'm about to show you in the next 2 videos today. I tell you that much. And it's XRP Las Vegas. The agenda is out. The newly released agenda for Friday and Saturday. Listen, you're not going to want to miss this. I'm not going to run through it all, but $25,000 in prizes. Easy A, Dom, and Phil Kwok going to open up the show. First Ledger, I tell you, the things the First Ledger are going to tell you and share on stage are going to blow your mind. And here the AMA upholds Simon McLaughlin. I tell you what, this is going to be incredible. Nancy Beaton, Paul Unterberg, and then coming down to, I'm just touching on a few, Caleb and Brown. How many times have I told you about Caleb and Brown? I'm getting the best night's sleep I've had in 8 years in this space. Don't believe it. It's still true. This is remarkable. And you can too. All you got to do is go and click the link. It's xrpwealth589.com and open up your free account with Caleb and Brown, because you get human customer service. You can't beat it. Now, look, I want to show you this really quickly. Ripple pledges $25 million to support U.S. classrooms and teachers. Who else in this space is doing anything remotely close to this? It's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's not happening. And the Baron of Beach Street, the legend, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeedy. My brother from another mother here. It's the official legend of the Digital Asset Investor Channel. And he is a dear member of the DPMG as well. Listen and look at what he has done. Now, I'm not going to run through all of this because it's incredible what he's put together. Look at all of the information based around the UBRI program that Ripple has partnered with 45 universities across 20 countries, supporting more than 1,200 research projects, 850 courses, 900 on-campus events, and 90 plus XRP Ledger projects as of November 24. And that was a year, well, months ago. So this is remarkable, 6 months ago. So look at all of this stuff that he's compiled and put together here. And I mean, it's just remarkable. This community is incredible. Shout out to you, Sean, and all the work that you've put into that. And you can go to my profile or his, and you should give him a follow at Baron of Beach Street. I tell you, he's done some incredible work there. And this is a reminder about that $25 million to the classroom. It's super amazing what is going on. But what I want to do is change from the classroom and go to the DTCC. Now, I know we've been talking about it here lately, but guess who else is talking about it? It's Dan Dunny. And Dan Dunny, or Donnie, however he says it, is going to lay down exactly what's happening. And I don't mind telling you that this looks a lot to me like an NDA burning off with the DTCC as they move into this new digital transformation of clearing and settlement. We have several clips. Give Subjective Views a follow. Subjective Views is putting out just smashing content. You need to know about it. Let's take a listen from here from the first clip.
A bunch of nonsense then and still now that occurred on those blockchain rails. People speculating on value being taken advantage of, great deal of value being stolen. You needed to have the kinds of mechanisms that allowed mom and pop to be able to engage with these technologies safely without being a smart contract auditor. That involved a whole lot of work, and again, set us up perfectly for this time now where everyone realizes, as big as the blockchain world is, the crypto world is, it's tiny compared to the rest of finance. And what we want is the efficiency that that offers, that you get from the crypto world, for the rest of finance. Why? Because that makes finance much more accessible, much more fair, much more efficient for everyone. And that's what I'm here to do now that I'm part of the center of finance. I'm in an organization where it's all going down. And if you were to take and convert it all, to change it all, there's no better place than the organization that I'm in. That's why I'm not doing many interviews, because we're hard at work in retooling the core to make that possible.
It's really remarkable what he just said. He is at the heart of where it all is happening, right? Well, just to break this down a bit about Dan. Dan Dunny, or Donnie, however he likes to say it, is the managing director and CTO of the DTCC Digital Assets, the firm's institutional-grade digital asset infrastructure and products. Prior to the DTCC, Dan founded Securency and served as the first chief innovation officer at the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's also a former U.S. Navy nuclear submarine officer. Okay, that's a big deal. Now, listen to here in the baseball reference. Dan is saying something because I think Dan's very proud about what's been going down.
And it's that lack of efficiency or that drag in the financial systems that has enormous cost, like on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars or more per day to the world. That can be fixed in a relatively straightforward way with a sophisticated smart contract framework. Well, that's the perfect killer app for all these newly tokenized securities in the space: treasuries, cash, other securities funds, money market funds, etc. Being able to use them in collateral and lending, repo transactions, securities lending transactions, margin transactions that settle in seconds. That's ultimately what will unlock the tipping point. And you're seeing it. We are very close to that point in the markets now, because there's so much demand. Inbound, we're hearing from everyone. People are gunning for these solutions at this point. And so it's an exciting time. There's not much time left for people who don't embrace this new technology, this new method, because everyone's at it now. And when everyone's at it and you address these core liquidity functions in the market, you'll be left behind if you're not able to keep pace. I think we're past the seventh inning stretch at this point. That was probably the last winter. It's now the bottom of the seventh, or maybe the eighth inning here as we're rounding the corner. It's very close to the finish. So you better have your best reliever lined up, and it's really moving fast. I'll tell you, from an institutional setting, I mean, we are very, very close now to markets. Okay.
Wow. We're very, very close now. The tipping point is here. All the phraseology we want to hear, right? And then let's add this in. This is a small fraction at what's at stake. The DTC is just one of many CSDs globally, and they are the record keepers for quadrillions of dollars of transactions and currently working towards tokenizing approximately $100 trillion of assets. Now, remember, I'll remind you after this. I'm telling you, watch out. This ain't over by a long shot. I got something for you.
The CEO, Frank LaSala, and the board had foresight that, hey, this is a disruptive technology that can fundamentally change the way we do business. We need to harness that technology. So they acquired Securency not as the only technology, but as a foundation, especially a foundation for how you do regulated assets, on which we could blend together the other technologies, distributed ledgers, smart contract frameworks, tokenization frameworks, to create a coherent marketplace. So they were forward-leaning in that model. As I mentioned to you, the one right to win that DTCC has in this model is we are the record keeper for quadrillions of dollars of transactions, but for fundamentally assets under record, approximately $100 trillion worth of assets. So unilaterally, without the need to engage anyone else, we can actually make it possible to tokenize $100 trillion worth of value.
Unilaterally. unilaterally. They don't need anybody's approval. That's what that means. They can tokenize $100 trillion of assets without asking anybody permission.
No one else can do that efficiently. So we have both a right and a responsibility to do that effectively for the financial markets, because it unlocks so much among those things that it unlocks. So we're building out those rails to do that, to make it so that parties can, within seconds, convert any traditional holding into token form to conduct transactions.
I got to be honest. I'm loving that Dan's come up for air here to let us all know where we're at. Listen, in one of the earlier clips, a global tokenization layer. Wow. Isn't that interesting? Well, you know, all this tokenization that they don't need permission for. Listen to what Ripple's poised for with all the custody they've bought as far as Medico and Standard Custody and Trust Company, which, by the way, used to own Securrency before it was bought by the DTCC, which means Ripple owned it.
So yes, there's the opportunities there, and it's coming together. I would say the other thing that I get excited about when we talk to our bank customers who are using custody, they really want us to be their partner or advisor in thinking about our real world asset tokenization.
Yeah, and I know it's a buzzword too, but you know what? It's a real word at Ripple. And take a listen to this about tokenization, you know, stocks and bonds, you know, the things that the DTC settles.
Payments is also kind of like a base use
Hold on, let me get the volume right.
case for other types of financial services. Like if you think about security settlement, like it triggers a payment at the end of it. So we thought we should tackle this first, but we always did have our sights set on expanding into tackling other types of financial use cases. So capital markets is kind of like a logical place to expand.
So stocks and
bonds, bonds,
yeah.
Exactly.
There you have it. That's exactly what Dan has been talking about the entire time you've been watching this video. As a reminder, Securrency, which Dan used to be the head of, was purchased by the DTCC. But before it was purchased by the DTCC, fun little fact here, and obviously we know Securrency has the ability to utilize Ethereum, Stellar, Ripple, EOS, and other distributed ledgers, as well as legacy systems for seamless on and off-chain movement of tokens. We also know what, when I asked Grok and shared this with you over the weekend, or on Friday, we know that Standard Custody and Trust Company, Ripple acquired Standard Custody and Trust Company, and Securrency was a brand under Standard Custody in February 24. So basically, the DTC bought, Ripple buys Standard Custody and Trust Company, and the DTC buys Securrency, which was under Standard Custody and Trust Company, right? So we're still, what are we still confused about what's going to be used at the DTCC? Is that what it is? We still leaving the door open, wondering what that global tokenization layer may be? Listen, when it comes to, just to understand this, just the protocols that were mentioned here, and it says others too, but Ethereum, no DEX in the layer 1. Stellar, yes, there is a decentralized exchange in the layer 1 because it's a copy of the XRP Ledger. Ripple, the XRP Ledger, obviously has a decentralized exchange built into the layer 1. EOS, no, not so much. So this gets very interesting because if you're going to have a global tokenization layer, then I would think you would want to have a DEX tied into that. So that way that pairing, when it gets tokenized, immediately gets onboarded right there to the exchange, the world exchange. It will be known as the XRP Ledger. And here we have it here. I think David Schwartz says it better than anybody. I'll just let it run.
People are going to have different use cases and different demands and needs. And the XRP has a privileged place on the XRP Ledger. Through pathfinding, always looks for XRP liquidity first.
So if we put 100 trillion tokenized without having to ask permission, as Dan just filled us in on it, the DTCC, how much of that 100 trillion will find the privilege of XRP and say, you know what, we could actually make a better market in this moment for settlement than this position or this pairing, whatever it happens to be, because it will be so many different cross pairings, you won't believe it. Keep listening.
The auto bridging, causes trades to automatically look at XRP liquidity where they don't automatically look at any other liquidity. So XRP is always going to have a privileged place as a bridge asset on the XRP ledger, and the stablecoin ecosystem is not going to change that. It's just going to enable more use cases.
Exactly, because you're going to expose it to a larger market. That's what's happening with stable coins. And Cody Carbone, the president of the Digital Chamber, says, feels like a good week to move stablecoin legislation. You better believe it. And we can't wait to see you on stage at XRP Las Vegas. No doubt about it. And we know, by the way, it is Ripple.
The virtual asset service provider in Europe, and to be able to support the MiCA rules. When MiCA went live in 2024, it was fully MiCA compliant, and it also became fully transferable on the Ethereum blockchain. Since then, it will now be available on several other blockchains, including Solana, Ripple, and Stellar.
There you have it. So there's the DTCC. There's no more guessing here. We're in the game, ladies and gentlemen, and the game starts with tokenizing 100 trillion in assets without having to ask anyone's permission. And how do we know that? Because Securrency was bought by Standard Custody and Trust Company, and that company, Standard Custody and Trust Company, was bought by Ripple, and then eventually Securrency was sold to the DTCC, and it sounds like it's an in-house party to me, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't be more excited about where this is going, and I know you're getting excited too. Here's what we could do. I took that 100 trillion that they talked about, and I left everything on the XRP calculator just where it is in its default mode, so you know something's wrong. First of all, we have 58 billion in circulating supply, not 60, so this number should be a little higher. But if we were to have all 100 trillion, right, when this is daily transactions, so that was a yearly thing. So I tell you what, well, here, what we do this. Why don't we do this? I'll do 10, right? Let's do 10, see where we get here. 10 is a $1,000 plus XRP with 10 trillion daily in transactions. Well, you know what? Let's have fun with it. We're here. So why don't we just do 1 so everybody can see 1 trillion? And I'll put this down. I'll put this down to 1 trillion also. And I'll put this to 58 because that's what it is. So imagine 1 trillion in store of value, right? And imagine 1 trillion daily moving across the flow. What do we got? An $81 XRP. Now listen, I mean, we already know we have Hidden Road, which is 3 trillion a year, right? So that's incredible. Think of it, 10 billion a day. So why don't we do this even? Why don't we do 0.5? Why don't we do 0.5? Because 0.5 is 500 billion. And why don't I do that down here too? 0.5. Let's see what we get. A $500 million. A $500 million in store of value. I mean, I'm sorry, $500 billion in store of value and a $500 billion in total estimated daily transactions. $40. $40. That's what we're talking about. Look, I think this goes well beyond. I really, really do. Look, I believe easily we can work our way up in no time to 5 trillion daily, and I'll just put the same for the store of value, and let's see what we got. That's a $400 plus XRP. So you can play with this thing too. You can go to xrplhq.com and play with the XRP calculator and look at all the other things that they have as well. But I enjoy doing this and seeing real numbers being talked about by real people in the DTCC. Let me say one more thing here. Think of the bottleneck. Ripple always goes for the bottleneck where they can have the biggest impact by going to that bottleneck. The DTCC, over 2 quadrillion a year, 100 trillion in assets. They could tokenize it just like that. I have a suspicion they probably already have. But nonetheless, it isn't go to market yet, but it's about to be. And we know that because Dan at the DTCC told us. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We're going into the freedom zone. I hope you will join us. One of the next places they're going to go to try to scare us all. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Come on in. All right.